that means a lot to us. And there is some thought that the big industry merger of Activision and Vending, or Activision Blizzard on there, I think that strengthens them as a company. I think that that's actually a good thing, and there will be positive things coming off of that. But I also think it puts EA on notice. For a long time, EA was, we're number one, and there was probably a degree of arrogance to their corporate culture in some ways. And they've been brought down a peg, literally, in this case, and I think that they are working hard on a lot of levels to make, do some good things. And there's kind of an interesting little story on this where we got star treatment from everybody. The top execs from all of these companies came down. We did game demos for all of them. It's very disruptive actually to have this going on several times through the project. Just like, okay, and we had like one time where we thought there wasn't anybody important coming down, and we just made all these changes in the code. We just broke everything today. Let's see if we can dredge up a backup of something to go share to people. But it was interesting where you wouldn't think that, kind of the big guy at the top, we have Riccatello in from EA, and he was making cogent game comments, about the game and comparing it to other things. Design level things, and that was kind of interesting to see a CEO at that level really does care about the specifics of the game and what's going to be good and novel about this. But again, there's every chance in the world we'll wind up back with Activision for Doom. It's going to be, we don't sign long-term contracts, everything is one title at a time, and we'll see what everybody comes back with then. We'll have a sense of whether early EA stuff, whether we have a good honeymoon and it's going sour by the time we're getting down to the brass tacks on the project there, or if they actually do have some advantages over Activision. And that's, again, it's nice to be in that position, as we are still one of the few premier independent studios that can sort of write our own ticket like that and dictate terms to a fair degree. We do have to make sure that Rage is really kick-ass awesome, because we don't want to lose that position. We don't want to come up and say, oh, we kind of botched it on that last one. We'll get another chance no matter what, but we don't want to be in that position. Next question.
I was wondering, at what point during the development of Quake did you realize that, wow, we're making a game that's like addictively fun to play?
Speaking of
Quake, when did you realize that like the game was just like great?
Quake, I definitely, usually on games I do have these moments that kind of define the game for me. And we've gone through lots of Doom stuff, and we knew all of that, but there's one moment that I remember early on in Quake's development where the whole thing is we're doing the 3D stuff now. We had just brought in 3D models, and there was a period where I was up on a ledge looking down, and there was a shambler walking, and the feet were sitting there in the right place, footstep, footstep. And that was something that I had never seen in a game before there. The perspective there, looking down on it, the sense that this creature was there, and he was plotting, and he had weight and mass, and it wasn't a cardboard cutout like games had been up until then. And that was one of my defining moments for Quake.
I was wondering, the technical side of game design seems kind of straightforward to me, but I was wondering if you could talk about the creative side in software. How do you manage the good, the bad, the ugly of, what game do we decide to produce, how do we produce it, and all the creative work that's needed to bring it to fruition?
Yeah, so managing the creative side of things is something that it's a really tough issue, and id Software historically had a justified reputation of having a bunch of prima donnas. There was truth to that, and in a small team you get by having people that are strong-willed and passionate about what they're doing, and there would be cases where there would be bullying down of people that there was sort of a Darwinian thing there about letting the strongest voice rise to the top, and that worked to some degree for a while, but you can't do that in a modern company. So we have a level of hierarchy now where it used to be, in the old days, id Software was strictly two levels. There were the owners and there were the employees. With Doom 3, we brought in kind of this intermediate level of actually having leads on there. We had a lead designer, lead programmer, lead artist, and that is the level that we're still at now. We're almost tending towards maybe having one more thin layer as we look across multiple projects there. But it is a lot more disciplined, and things go a lot smoother now. And it's an open question, is that just because we're all getting older, we're a little more mature, there's not as many, when the company was all run by egotistical, loudmouth 20-something-year-olds, it was a different culture than what it is right now. And something's lost when you don't have that element, but that's not a culture that you can put $20, $30 million for a game development budget and not have a huge risk of an incredible smoking crater there. Of course, we've all seen some of those in the industry over the years. But honestly, I made a conscious decision post-Quake 3 to try to distance myself a little bit from it, because it does come back to this, don't promote yourself past your point of competence there. And I have ideas and comments and things that I will look at about the games, but for me, they mostly come down to tactical things. There are things that I can say, the weapon should respond this way, the feedback should be this. These are things that impact the second-to-second elements of game design, and that is game design. It doesn't bother me much when people would always say how id Software games had no design to it. They did have design. They didn't have overarching stories and things like that. But it is a design question when you decide, okay, we can draw this, but what do we want to draw, and how do we want to make it do things? And I do care about those, that level of things. But the high-level side of things, there's a part of me, I used to love Dungeons and Dragons, doing all the games and creating the worlds. And there's a part of me that would like to be involved on that level and say, well, now we really can create these incredible worlds that we can give people to play in. And there's an appeal to that. But one thing that really gets driven home as years go by is that there's a very finite amount of time. And you just can't do everything, so you really have to prioritize and pick the things that you want to do, that you're going to be good at, where you can make a difference. So like in some of the Doom meetings, I poked my head in there and sat in the back of the room and tried not to impose in any way on there. I want to be appraised of what's going on, but I'm not part of the design management project. We have to let other people in and do that, because I don't think that's what I'm best at. I don't have the time for it. And we do have a lot of creative and talented people here that can do that. And I'm sure, I hope Tim and Matt, some of the other designers, are speaking, and we'll have a chance to kind of ask them the questions there. Because there are lessons that are being learned. You're trying different methodologies. We're going through different ways of bringing the teams together, but they're all experiments. We don't have a silver bullet. We don't expect there's going to be a silver bullet. We can try to do a competent job at this and be responsive, recognize when we're falling down and make changes, but there's very little hubris on the design side of things. We know that this is not a solvable problem, really, and we're just trying to do we're trying to do a great job in an acceptable methodology.
So ATI has its first Cinema 2.0 experience that they're showing with some voxelization rendering, and I'm wondering if that's entirely generic, if NVIDIA could do a similar thing on their cards through CUDA and other general processing techniques, or is that specific to ATI? Is that one of their, I guess...
Okay, I can't speak to specific implementation details there, but there are some specific, there are some general things to know that anything currently done on what people are demoing sort of for Laramie, CUDA, and future ATI stuff, they're all going through a pipeline that had to be optimized for triangle rasterization. The reality is that anything that anybody's bringing to market has to be a better GPU than what we've got today. So all the underpinnings are not built for voxel rasterization or whatever. They're built for triangle rasterization. Now, it's back to real programming now, where we can go ahead and write different algorithms, have different looping approaches. There's a lot more cleverness that you can throw into these more general purpose architectures now. But nobody's doing something that's really specific to a technique. And on one hand, it's kind of a shame, because when you look at what you actually need to do voxel ray tracing, it's mostly bit-level operations. It's one of these things that, again, comes back to time. I would love to be able to spend 6 months, learn how to make FPGAs and write my own implementation of a hardware voxel ray tracer, because it would be elegant and simple. There's all of these aspects to it that pack nicely into lines rather than floats that that you would see all these benefits. But nobody's going to do that because you have to play to what exists here today. You can't make some completely speculative bet on a different rendering technology there. But what might happen is, if we wind up doing something that can be rendered acceptably across a variety of next generation hardware there, and people find out that, okay, this sort of dense geometry voxelization sort of thing works out really well, there might be some future instruction that winds up turning 20 floating point instructions into one walk voxel instruction or something in the future. That type of thing could happen. But right now, anything that's going on demos is being built on top of essentially repurposed GPU hardware.